Welcome into Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. And folks, I know if you've been listening, you're going to be like, I'm sick and tired of you doing this BS. Come in here, you say, oh, since we've started, we haven't lost. But Eagles fans, listen to me. I'm pretty superstitious. I think you'd probably want us to keep going because the Eagles have literally not lost since we have started this episode, Tyson. I mean, it's uncanny.
That's true, but as a superstitious person, you did go to Mexico for a week when we didn't do the Panthers episode, and they still won that one, so we have a little bit of leeway there, but still undefeated since we started doing this project here for the Undroppables Network. Yeah, this one felt the best, Brad. This felt better than the Ravens game. It felt better than some of the stuff earlier in the year. This to me was like, this was belt to ass, brother.
It was like, who's going to be more physical? And the Eagles showed up and were physical. And so that was nice to see. That's a check mark, another one, because the Ravens game, although that defense is a little bit suspect, but, they're still can play with some tenacity. But Tyson, it felt good for me because, this is Battle of the Keystone, right? Battle for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so I went to school at Penn State. There's Pittsburgh Steelers fans. There's Eagles fans. They always do Steelers, so many championships. Like, brother, It's you got two and the Eagles have one in your lifetime. Like, let's not look at the steel curtain. So let's knock it off. And if we want to be honest here, Eagles have been a better franchise recently than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I know that's going to hurt, but Eagles fans, you can hold this over your Steelers friend's head for the next 4 years or so.
Yeah, let us talk our junk, and that's a good point here as we get into the episode. Last week we talked about the AJ Jalen drama. This week we got a fake Jay Glazer story. Is it fake? Is it not? BG says it didn't happen. Jalen Hurts said it didn't happen as far as a visit to his house over the bye, and that's because they've been such a good franchise for so long. Like, it feels, Eagles fans, why is everybody picking on us? Leave us alone. Part of it, is you won the Super Bowl in 2017. You go back to it in 2022. You're one of the winningest franchises over the last decade. You're not used to being, the lead on a Colin Cowherd or a Skip Bayless TV show. Well, here we are, baby.
Yeah, and that's the pros and cons of fame, I guess, for a lack of a better term here, and that's what the Eagles have put themselves into. Let's dive into the Steelers. So let's break this down. And folks, if you're just joining us, what we do is we talk about last week's game. We'll talk about a little bit about the offense, defense check-in, and I think we'll have some short things to say about that this week because, my goodness, they continue to look good. And then we'll get into next week's game. Got another divisional matchup against the Commanders on deck, the second-place team right now. And we'll end with our predictions and bold predictions. Tyson's been hot. I got to get on the board here, although I was pretty close. And so we'll go through that. Let's start here. You said belt to ass. I want you to break it down, and I'll jump in.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's start maybe with the offense. I think that's what people want to listen to. We can go to the defensive stuff. It was awesome to see timing routes right off rip. Like, you're leaving Joey Porter Jr. on an island. Well, this is what you're going to get today. Is that AJ Brown's going to win these routes? When you had your bold prediction of AJ Brown 10+ catches, we kind of tried to do a little how's this going to work out between slants, crossers, deep shots, whatever else. It was awesome to see the slants, in full force at the beginning of this game, and a little hook routes and things like that he's just so good at. And Jalen was electric to start the game. He, unfortunately, towards the end, and this is something that I'm going to say one time, so you can't call me a hater, but he did end up holding the ball in that second half, and those are the things that everyone was mad at him for. But he also had some of his best plays of the season when he was doing that. The third down conversion to Devontae Smith that was almost pure improvisation by both of them is one of those moments. But average time to throw was down almost like a half second to start this game. He comes out absolutely slinging it. He's 8 for 8 for 100 yards in front of Tom Brady. It feels good. They come out with a 22-yard kind of like it's like a stick route, and then Grant Calcaterra either has the option to go, or that's just kind of like a out and up route that they chose. He would seem to be the primary on that. I love the fact that it's, hey, let's get it rolling. We're going to Grant first, and then we're going to work everybody else in. This was a masterclass in Nick Saban media training, folks. None of the rat poison from outside. That's Nick's favorite phrase, right? Rat poison, rat poison. None of that affected Jalen Hurts. He came out here and proved, that I can't throw the ball for 290 yards. It's just easier to run it.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I agree with you in a lot of it. So starting with the timing routes and holding onto the ball for Jalen Hurts. So if you guys haven't seen this, on Fox, Brady gives out like his award at the end, and he was talking to Jalen Hurts. So it was a good conversation. I thought it was very insightful. Brady's talking to Hurts. You can kind of tell him, you can kind of see that he was like, dude, you got to do like this again if you're going to be elite quarterback. But, you can't come out and just flat out say that on air. And Hurts kind of, he was listening. That's what he does. He's a coachable guy, coaches kid. We know that stuff. And it was interesting how Brady was pointing that out. Like what we've been saying is like the timing routes, like back foot out, back foot out, back foot out, trust it and let it rip. You got a good enough arm. And Brady was kind of talking him through that. And it's like, that's what you need to do. And we saw that. It was on full display in this game. And it was the best that the passing game has looked in a long time. Now, it's against the Steelers defense that's still got question marks in the secondary. And so it's not necessarily
played yet this year, though.
I agree with that. And especially because you got to come out, you got to make it quick. Like if you're going to be decisive, it has to be against this one because of the pass rush the Steelers have, even if this is a good offensive line. The holding the ball thing. Tyson, I've been thinking about this. At this point, Jalen Hurts has the tendency to hold on to the ball, and that's his player card, for lack of a better term. Josh Allen has an ability to has a tendency to get a little bit loose with the football. He puts it in the tight windows. He's got a rocket arm. We can go through the lineage of it. Justin Herbert, a little bit wild on throws, right? Throws the ball too hard, overthrow, things like that. Joe Burrow, again, a little injury history there. That's kind of the only knock on him. Patrick Mahomes, sometimes he throws interceptable balls. Like there's knocks on every single quarterback. Like not everybody's perfect. The prototype or the thing for Jalen Hurts is he holds onto the ball. So if you can get to the point where he is holding onto it minimally, like he did against the Steelers, that's where this offense is going to operate the best. That's where Kellen Moore, that's where Nick Sirianni needs to get to with Jalen Hurts. And I think this game is where they can build upon.
Yeah, and they come out and empty, which is just awesome, and it's not with the Saquon motion right into the backfield. And there was another Devontae Smith snap out of the backfield. I think, according to Pro Football Focus, that's only his 11th snap this season out of the backfield. That was an awesome design by Kellen Moore. I think he's kind of, able to maybe do a little bit more when things are going really well than, through the pass game. Because it's not like they didn't run the football well. Like I want to kind of squash some of that. Saquon got hurt at the beginning of the game. We all saw it. Minkah got him good, flipped him up in the air, and he misses essentially a half. And he only finished with 65 yards. Kenneth Gainwell was fantastic in this game, and the Birds finished with 120 yards rushing or whatever it was on the game. But like those other things, if they can find a marriage somewhere in there and still be able to have those explosives on the ground, because there was that third down that Saquon converted on that 10-minute drive that we got to get to, by the way, brother. But when he was a centimeter away essentially from busting that one, then all of a sudden we're talking about, Saquon had 125 yards and a touchdown. Jalen threw for 290. AJ and Smitty both go over 100. What do you do with this football team?
That's the multiplicity that we're looking for, right? As Eagles fans, like the ability to have Saquon Barkley go for 100, because like you said, shoestring tackle away, that happens. Steelers are a good tackling unit. And so, Saquon's not going to be able to have the breakaways like he did against some of the worst teams that he faced. You're going to get tackled in the open field. That's why they get paid too. But that's the multiplicity, right? We're not asking for Jalen Hurts to throw for 300 yards every time when Saquon Barkley is running the ball for 25 plus. That's just, there's only so many snaps, and especially when we'll get to this to kind of close before we get to the defense. They're freaking running 10-minute drives. Like you only have so many plays you're going to be able to run. But I agree with you, man. This is what we want to see. We talk about this. A.J. Brown, 11 targets, 8 catches, $110 for a tud. Devontae Smith, 12 targets, 11 catches, 109 and a tud. Calcaterra only had 1 target, that 22-yard catch. It was big. Kenneth Gainwell, 3 targets out of the backfield, little checkdowns. No other wide receiver caught a pass, though. Dotson, 1 target, no catches. Johnny Wilson, 1 target, no catches. I think I'm okay with that if this is the look that we're going to get. Like the offense clearly operates the best this way when you have the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both sides thing. Somebody up the middle, Calcaterra, checkdowns to Saquon, checkdowns to Kenny. I would like, obviously, a little bit more allocation of Jahan Dotson getting in there as your number 3. But Tyson, if you're going to run, if this is going to be the offense, we can't just pick holes and everything. At some point, we got to say, this looked as good as we're going to get, and we got to be fine with that. And that's how you win football games in this league.
Yeah, you don't trade a third-round pick for somebody like Jahan Dotson and make him a decoy like this Eagles team has, or most teams wouldn't do that. But if you notice on Devontae Smith's touchdown, that's the same concept that he scored on a week ago. Him and AJ just swapped kind of roles there, and Jahan Dotson hits him with the pick route. It's kind of just a coverage beater down there. AJ is the one that ends up, getting the kind of the corner to the pylon. but Smitty came open, and Jalen hit him when he was open. And part of the reason he was open is because of Jahan Dotson. Johnny Wilson got in on a little 12 personnel action. I don't really want to see that a whole lot more, Kellen. I think I'm good on that. But yeah, I'm impressed with all these guys. And again, man, like it's 3rd and 5. You find Kenneth Gainwell behind the line of scrimmage, and yes, he's making guys miss and crazy spin moves. But who's blocking down the field? It's 11, it's 6, it's 80. Like it's the guys that other outlets might tell you we're throwing a fit. They weren't getting the football. They're blocking for their teammates.
Yeah. So let's switch to the defense. Not a whole lot we got to discuss here. And I think, the offense was the conversation coming out of last week. So it was 2 weeks ago against the Panthers. So that was good to have a deep dive and kind of discuss that. This defense, man, what else can you say about him? Now, George Pickens is out, and that was a huge thing. That's something we highlighted. It's going to hurt that offense. It really, really limited down the field what Russell Wilson was able to do. But batting the ball down, perfect, right? That's what you can do with Russell Wilson across the middle of the field. That's something that's been a weakness of his. The moon ball wasn't there, so you kind of, it's a deep shot. Are they a little bit open to that after the Panthers game? We'll see. But, Tyson, this is what I was impressed with. Najee Harris, 6 carries, 14 yards, 2.3 per carry. Jalen Warren, 4 carries, 12 yards, 3 yards per carry. They had to go to Cordell Patterson. Now, two carries, 9 yards. The Justin Fields thing, one carry for 8 yards. Total 56 total yards on the ground. This is something we highlighted. We're like, is the Panthers thing a one-off, or is there some issues here? I think that's the one-off, brother. Like, this defense is really good. They're sound. The linebackers doing a really good job of stopping the run, and the defensive line is winning their battles. And so what did you take away from the defensive angle here?
Well, I thought the line dominated. Another Jalen Carter, just kind of setting the tone early. We don't care so much about his personal foul or the yelling match that ensued, because that's what competition is. That's a head coach, yelling at his player for doing something stupid, and the player's position coach sticking up for the player. This happens on every other team across the league all the time, but it's a big deal when Nick does it because there's not a whole lot else to complain about when your defense looks that way. Nakobe Dean coming downhill and just absolutely shooting gaps during this game. Zach Bond, stat sheet might not say he had the best game. If he is like able to get his head around on the flea flicker there, that was one of the more impressive athletic things he's done this season, because he closed 2 steps on the handoff, recognized, and then caught up with a guy who runs 4 threes in Calvin Austin. And yes, Russ underthrew the ball a little bit, but even the fact that he's in the frame there is pretty impressive. And Brad, I think my favorite moment of this game, and we can talk if the rest got it wrong or not, I don't care. Darnell Washington pushes Darius Slay into the basically into the stands. Like, I'm 300 pounds. By the way, Slay's he does something to these guys, because this happens to him all the time. But who's running over there and barking right away? It's Quinyon Mitchell, and he's in the thick of things. And then all of a sudden, big number 90, Jordan Davis, just starts wandering through and moving people. Like, this is my team. You go over to your side. We're cool. Everything's fine. And one thing I did notice during that, Tom Brady can't talk about the refs, huh? Because of the ownership thing with the refs. Yeah. He's not allowed. He's trying to go right through and get through it, which is fine. But that attitude is different than it was in 2023. And I know the 2022 defense was awesome. This one has different level of dogs. And they might be, they're different defenses, and you can argue about who was better. 70 sacks is crazy, and this unit doesn't have a Hassan Reddick that's just wrecking the game. Nolan Smith was fantastic again. He had one rep where – he hurdled Jalen Warren on the pass block, which was crazy, but he also didn't set the edge, and he lost contain there. So you can talk about that as a loss. He's relentless, dude. He played like 95% of the snaps and just was all motor the whole game.
Well, listen, if you're going to hurdle that guy and you're not setting the edge, I'll give you a break on that, because that was so like, athletic, whoa, dude. It was sick. I got to bite my tongue a little bit or walk it back. I was texting you, and we haven't necessarily had a huge Nolan Smith thing on here in a negative fashion. But there's a time when I was texting Tyson, like, God, I just don't know if it's going to work. Like, we knew there were question marks coming in, but this being frail, for lack of a better term, but just for that position, like just super thin and gonna get pushed around a little bit. That was a concern. This guy is like, you can't beat motor, and that's what he has, and I'm loving it. I am way on the Nolan Smith train, just like I'm way on the Nakobe Dean train. And Tyson was telling me a funny story with all the Georgia guys hanging out, and Kobe Dean's like the ringleader. He's got to and that's what I want for my linebacker. That's what I want for my middle guy. You got to keep him in check.
Looks like, I mean, through the team videos, we don't know anything. We're not in the locker rooms, but it certainly seems like, he's in charge, and then Jordan Davis is the one that they all laugh at when he says anything because he'll beat you up. He's way bigger than you. The corners were awesome in this game. I really think Quinyon Mitchell was primed for his first interception and probably a pick six early in this game when JC gets a knockdown at the line of scrimmage. Cooper DeJean, huge tackle in space. Reed Blankenship flying around, make it like it's a complete unit, dude. And the fact that they only had to play 41 plays, like they played half a game,
Insane.
It's great for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It is awesome, and they just continue to develop under Vic Fangio. Tyson, is there anything else you want to say about this? Because I think there is one other thing I want to get to before we move forward.
What do you got?
So the 2 fumbles, because that's going to be the conversation if they lose, right? The Jalen Hurts strip sack. Oh, he's being lackadaisical with the ball. You got to protect it better. Which, I was watching. I'm like, TJ Watt's a master of that. Jalen does got to put 2 hands. He's got to start putting 2 hands on the ball when he's.
I think it cancels out because of the one that he held on to for some reason with the broken finger on the football. That was crazy work.
That is true. And then the other one is the Cooper DeJean one. Now, I was texting you, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, you got to be pissed about these turnovers. I'm like, I want the turnovers now because we need the turnover positive variance going into the playoffs, right? Like, I'm sick of like, oh, the Eagles are just winning the turnover battle because I'm like, this thing is going to come to roost at the absolute worst time. So these final 3 games, I'm okay with them turning the football over because I think that means on the backside, there's going to be some positive regression. Also,
good to see that Cooper DeJean fumbles, and they trot him right back out there. It wasn't back to anybody else. I mean, Britton Covey, I think, was inactive for this game, so it's not like he was an option there. But it was like, hey, it happens. And Cooper DeJean has a 15 or 11-yard return right after that, so that was nice to see. But, this defense has juice, man.
It does, and that's tongue-in-cheek on the turnovers. Obviously, you want to clean it up, play perfectly. But, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen late in the season when it doesn't matter. Just clean it up before the playoffs.
Give the Giants 7 of them.
Please. So let's transition into the Commanders then, Tyson, because, this was something that all Eagles fans kind of circle, right? Especially at the beginning of the season. Like, okay, the Commanders are red hot. Eagles are struggling. This could be a game that the Eagles have to win, if they're going to win the division. And if you win this game, you do win the division, but it's not a pressing thing anymore, right? Like they have I believe, 3-game lead now with the tiebreaker over the Commanders. I think it's virtually wrapped up, just barring something absolutely unforeseen. Complete and total collapse by the Eagles. So the Eagles are going to win this division. I don't have any doubt in my mind on that. But it would be great to do it by beating the Commanders and showing that, hey, we're the big bros on the block here. You guys can sit back. It's been cute with your rookie quarterback, your new head coach. Oh, you guys are all positive in Washington, but no, this is the Eagles division. So as you head into this, Eagles got to travel, go on the road. Like, what are you eyeing here? What do you think they're susceptible? What do you expect from this game?
Well, another show we do, I was telling you that it just feels like one of those situations where Eagles fans look at it and they go, we always split with Washington, that it's just going to be what it's going to be. That was true with Kirk Cousins. Since 2017, the Philadelphia Eagles have lost to Washington 3 times. And look, this is a better Washington team. Part of that is because you catch Sam Howell a couple times a year, or you catch, whoever else is running through the quarterback gauntlet that they've had. This is a good Washington team. This is one that I think the national media kind of tried to bury a little bit during that losing streak they had in the middle of the season. They bounced back well. Yes, they barely beat the Saints, and we can point at them and laugh, but so did the Eagles. And I know it was a different time in the season, but NFL football is weird. If you walk away with a win, that's a win, and it doesn't matter how you got it. Washington really wants this one. It's in Landover. Like, it's a big game for them. This Philadelphia Eagles defense put the boots to them the last time they played. And Jaden Daniels had was it a broken rib or an undisclosed rib injury at the time?
Ribs, yeah.
And so he wasn't necessarily pushing the ball down the field. So we can, start your engines and get ready for the victory lap. Quinyon Mitchell shutting down Terry McLaurin the first time. But it was a different offense. I'm expecting Cliff Kingsbury to move Terry McLaurin around the field and just say, hey, we're going to get him on Slay. We're going to get him on DeJean in the slot, something, because we can't leave him on the island with 27 because that didn't work last time. The Commanders actually a little bit worse at running the football right now than they were at that point in the season. And that game also had some positive turnover variance for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll see if that continues. But there isn't a team in the NFL right now that I'm looking at and going, I think that the Eagles should be underdogs.
I agree. And so, Tyson, let me run through this, kind of refresh everybody as we get into this one. So remember, this was the ugly first half game. And like, there was boos coming down. It was 7-0 after the first quarter from the Commanders. Eagles kicked the field goal before the first half. This is the whole thing. Like, what the hell is Nick Sirianni doing? You know, he got the missed field goal. You decided to do this, another missed field goal. You know, the offense looks awesome or awful with these 3 and outs, and it was just a mess early on, right? But then the second half completely changes, and it's mainly that fourth quarter. Like that's the real thing. And then they score 20, are absolutely blitzing the Commanders, right? It's 26-10. Everybody feels great. Commanders, you know, they score the touchdown at the end, so it's 26-18. Score looks a little bit different. It was a wonky game. Weird divisional game. I'm looking at these team stats here. 18 first downs for the Commanders, 23 for the Eagles. 63 total plays for the Commanders, 70 for the Eagles. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Only 264 total yards for the Commanders. The Eagles put up 434. Like, this was an ass kicking, like Tyson said. 4.2 yards per play for the Commanders, 6.2 for the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, 26 carries, 146 for 2 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels, 22 of 32, 191 with the touchdown and the pick. Hurts, 18 of 28, 221. AJ, 5 receptions, 65 yards. It was Austin Eckler, checkdowns, 8 receptions, 89 yards, who was really the leader for the Commanders. So this was a game when, you know, with the rib injury, like Tyson said, that they're like, Daniel's got to push the ball down the field. He's not doing it. Does that change in this one? I'm not sure, man. Like, listen, it's been good. Fangio's defenses are to make you throw the ball underneath and have the speed and wrap up and rally. And if you're going to be able to do one-on-one, Quinion Mitchell or Darius Slay a little bit against McLaurin, I don't foresee things changing too much, Tyson. And Jaden Daniels isn't a guy like Burrow or Josh Allen who is comfortable pushing the ball into tight windows, right? Like that's not necessarily his thing. He wants to take care of the football. So I think we could see something similar to what we saw when the first time these guys played.
Yeah, JD5 was hucking that thing into tight windows against the Saints. He had some of the dumbest throws of the
year
that resulted in touchdowns, by the way. So maybe he thinks now, you know, I can just get away with it. But it's different at LSU when Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors are running around wide open, and you don't necessarily have to make those throws. I am a little curious. I think Zach Ertz is still on concussion protocol and how that's going to impact the way that they want to run things on this offense. And we know him well, obviously, but he's still a good player and a key piece to that offense in Washington. Brad, this is a kind of a stretch here. This is the first time the Eagles really get the second game, and they catch all 3 of them in a row to end the season. It's just the way the schedule broke. But we're going to learn a lot about this defense and how easy or difficult it is if you see them twice, because if you don't look now, but the Rams are a potential playoff matchup. The Packers are a potential playoff matchup. The Buccaneers are a potential playoff matchup. All these teams the Eagles have already seen before. We'll find out what these teams can learn and glean from their first matchups, because it's hard to beat a team twice. It's hard to dominate a team twice the way this Eagles defense did. And lastly, we mentioned the yards. At that point in the season, Jalen Hurts in the short red area wasn't very good, and they weren't necessarily trusting him to throw the football. A lot of it was quarterback draws, or he was improvising running, and scoring touchdowns that way. They have been excellent in throwing the football in that short red area over the last couple of weeks. We got the AJ touchdown, the Devontae touchdown, and then the Devontae touchdown 2 weeks ago. Let's see if that continues, because at the beginning of the year, Brad, you told me not to bet Jahan Dotson to score a touchdown against the Washington Commanders in the first game, but he might get him in the second. And if Jalen is dealing in that low red area, we might get it.
Oh, Tyson, what a professional tease out of you, my man, because that'll be coming up later in the show. I'll just spoil it. I'll make it official later, but I'm telling you, he's going to eat. Kind of put a bow on this. I think the Eagles are going to win. We'll do our official predictions. I'll just say this. I would not be upset if they lost. I think they're going to beat the Command. I think they're going to beat the Giants. I think they're going to beat the Cowboys. They're going to lock up a game. Tyson, this is me being stupid. You want to win every single game your team goes out there. At some point, though, when's that loss going to come? I hope it's not when it matters. It's like, hold on a second, boys. What's going on here?
Better now than January, I'll say that. But
Exactly.
when you're in a fight for the 1 seed, these guys seem to be really locked in. There was a ton of stuff just getting thrown at them over the last couple of weeks that they responded to in the way that you hope, and not the way that the 2023 team kind of responded to things. This was more of a let's rally, and it's really awesome to me to see the calm down, celebration that Cooper DeJean kind of started when he planted Derrick Henry, and now the whole team's doing it. We got special teams units doing it. AJ Brown's doing it on first downs. That to me just signals a team that's like, yeah, we do this. This is what you need to expect of us. We've won 10 in a row, and we're not planning on stopping just because Brad McKay says he wants us to lose now.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's give our picks. Tyson, Or do the Eagles beat the Commanders and sweep the season series on Sunday?
Yes, I think the Philadelphia Eagles actually are maybe a little better on the road right now than they are at home.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I do think they win. This is another one where you're going to hear a lot about the Commanders' offense, and people are going to question maybe the Eagles' defense without realizing that they handled the Ravens, they handled Washington before, they handled Baltimore. Every single test that the defense has had this year, they've passed, and I expect that to happen again. It's an offense that maybe found their groove. I'm interested to see the Saquon touches allocation, because is this a look, we're talking about it like the dude didn't get the ball last week. He touched it 20-something times when you count the receptions, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's better for the long run. And the team, I'm sure, wants the record. But I think Philadelphia gets this one. I think that they wear on them. And look, the Washington corners did a heck of a job in that first game. It's a different team now.
I think the Eagles are going to win this game as well. They're 3.5-point favorites. So that's something to keep in mind going on the road right now, roughly 5-point favorites on a neutral. If for those who are interested in that, I don't know. It seems a little short to me if you think about it. But I think, listen, they're just rolling. I think the newfound confidence in the offense, more multiple. Dan Quinn has done a good job against Jalen Hurts in the past. So let's keep that in mind. But it's just so hard to stop him if Hurts is going to be playing like that. So I think the Eagles win this game as well.
Let's do it.
Bold predictions. Tyson, another one, gets home. He had the exotic idea of saying that the Steelers are not going to go over their, what was it, the season average that they had on third downs.
I think just it was 35%. Yeah.
Okay. And they went 3 of 10. So Tyson hit that one. I had AJ Brown 10+ catches. He lands on 8. It was Smitty who was the target hog in this one. So he goes over. So I've just barely missed that, but that was good to see AJ Brown get involved here. So bold predictions now. Tyson's hot. Why don't you lead it off here?
Brad, I think the Philadelphia Eagles defense scores a touchdown this week. And I'm not going to give you a player because that just seems like a great way to step in it. Because if I say it's Quinion Mitchell, it's Cooper DeJean. If I say it's Cooper DeJean, it's Darius Slay. I think this defense scores a touchdown. I think they get a takeaway. I'm anticipating an interception return for a touchdown. But some of these Washington concepts, as far as just like little hitch routes and things like that, are things this Eagles secondary is getting really good at sitting on. And Darius Slay has been close. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has been close a few times, and I think Quinion Mitchell's still looking for that first one.
Do you want to do the fantasy thing, D and special teams to cover you, or are you just going to go D?
No.
All right.
No, because if that's not bold, man. That's a twofer.
That's true. That is true. Okay, so Tyson thinks the defense is going to score a touchdown. I said it before. Jahan Dotson is going to get in the end zone here. Eagles love revenge games for their guys. What's a better revenge game than Dotson to get into the end zone on this field, too, against the Commanders? So they didn't do it the first game. This is the time when Dotson gets into the end zone against his former team. I think he's going to score.
Let's do it. Do you have a prediction on which? No, I'm just kidding.
First half. How about that? I'll even first. How about this one, too? This is a little sprinkle. Jahan Dotson, first Eagles touchdown.
Wow.
So not just scored, first Eagles touchdown. That's going to be in the account. All right, well, that's going to do it here for Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. Eagles continue to roll, baby. You got to be feeling good if you're an Eagles fan. We'll be back next week. It's going to be Christmas. We'll have to figure it out. So we'll kind of figure everything out. But it's against Dallas. It's not as much of a huge game as it's otherwise would be, and it's been in the past. But still, we're going to be breaking it down. We hope the Eagles are still undefeated since we started the show. And so everybody enjoy the weekend, enjoy the Eagles game, and we'll talk to y'all next week.